Hi, babe. Welcome to the Horror Babe Show. I'm your host, Chelsea Beller. Kristen Semedo is back on the show, in case you missed it. I interviewed Kristen at Film Quest in Provo, Utah, about her screenplay Deadlock, but now Kristen is back and we're talking about her short film, Vermin. Kristen and I chat about a feminist film starring a male character, the horror movies that inspired this piece, and working with spiders? Please excuse any ambient sounds during this recording. Let's tune in to my conversation with Kristen. All right. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Chelsea.
Welcome back on the Horror Babe Show, but virtual.
I know, I can't leave you alone for 5 seconds, apparently.
No, but I'm so honored that you reached out to me. I'm thrilled to talk about this. For a little backstory, Kristen and I met at Film Quest in Provo, Utah last fall. It was a fantastic time. We had a great interview. We talked about Deadlock, your screenplay, and now we're here to talk about your short film, Vermin, which is wild, and I love it. We'll do a brief summary without giving too much away.
Yeah.
Vermin is about a divorced man living alone, suffering the financial burden of divorce and possibly an alcohol problem. We open on a dark house with a couple of lit candles, a laundry basket, and a mess of overdue bills. Clearly, the house and this man are in disarray after his wife left, and he calls his ex-wife wondering where she is. Soon we realize he's not alone in the house. The main character is written in such a way that, like, I kind of feel bad for him, but I kind of don't at the same time. Was
Yeah.
that intentional?
Yes, and I'm really glad that that's how it came across. We obviously haven't, we're still waiting for festival decisions. We haven't had our premiere yet, so you're one of the few people who's seen it, who didn't work on it. Um,
Nice.
so I'm really glad to hear you say that because perfectly valid to write male characters that are easy to hate or who like exhibit these behaviors that we see in like the worst sides of the patriarchy. But I also
Yeah.
what's a little bit more sinister is that a lot of the times when women leave men like this, it's not because they're like evil, abusive, terrible men.
Right.
They're just not able to get out of their own way. And so I didn't wanna take away his humanity, and also, like, the thing is if he could just admit his feelings or talk about them or express his emotions, things could go a little bit different for him, but he makes the choice not to, and we see that happen, and
Yeah.
what plays out, plays out. I didn't want it to just be like, taking revenge or taking it out on that character. I really wanted to be
Right.
thoughtful about the men that we know who mean very well, sometimes, but just can't.
Yeah, like potentially lack the emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because my next question was what motivated you to write a story from the vantage point of a divorced man?
Yeah, and I kinda, like, went through my own not a crisis of self exactly, but I think something that I've become very, adamant about is that I don't think I should have to only write women. We're so excluded from the conversation, and I understand wanting to write more stories from our perspectives, which are needed. Like, if we really look at horror history, women have been here the whole time writing male characters. We just don't recognize them for it, and to tell women that they can only write like final girls, which I love final girls. They're great. I will probably write something with a final girl one day.
Yeah,
Uh,
right?
we don't really question when men write female characters. And so I didn't really want to feel like forced to only write female characters because it aligns with my gender. And I think we need to be telling more stories and not just again, not just the ones where there's plenty like I Spit on Your Grave. There are plenty of horror films that are about the terrible things, the horrible, like vile, evil things that men do to women where we get that satisfaction of revenge. Something more terrifying is being like, this is a pretty good human being here, but they're
Yeah,
hurting me and it sucks. I think it was the first thing I ever wrote, first script I ever wrote. Yeah, I really like kind of struggled with that because my whole thing is like feminist horror, but I think this is very feminist horror, even if it
absolutely.
follows a main character who's a man. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make a good point. The two are not mutually exclusive.
Mhm,
You don't have to write a feminist horror from the POV of a femme woman or a
mhm,
femme person. I think you did a great job of that, of like creating a feminist film, a female forward film, if you
mhm.
will, that primarily is about a man,
Yeah,
because you're also exposing his flaws and why he like failed in this relationship.
this isn't a spoiler, but like there is a line that he delivers when he's on the phone leaving a voicemail and he's about to say I miss you and he
Mhm.
gets as far as I miss and the next word is you, but
Right.
it turns into a barrage of like vitriol that he's
Mhm.
now spewing. So again,
Yeah.
it's so close and like and then you just are forced to see the detour that he chooses. So many men choose the detour of
Right.
anger uh,
Yes.
versus vulnerability.
Exactly. So as I was watching, I could see influences from other horror movies coming into play. There's like an attic scene, and there's a shot down the hallway where like a silhouette passes. And I know we've talked about slow burn movies, but what movies specifically inspired the way this was shot?
I know in the last interview we already talked about It Follows, but that it's
Yeah.
shot in the same aspect ratio. So that was
Nice.
like
Cool. Cool.
when I met with my DP, that was Brooke. That was the first thing that he and I talked about was we really wanted to sit in wide shots. And it's not just because I love films like It Follows, but thinking about the themes of like loneliness and absence,
Mhm.
we wanted it's interesting, we really wanted to create a wide environment for him to look small within because he's also feeling small, he's feeling alone and
Right.
empty. If you kind of look at certain other shots too, like, there's a shot through a ladder rung where we see him and he's actually kind of contained in small
Right.
inside. But It Follows definitely like as far as like the wide shots and things go, we took a lot of the color influence as well from Don't Breathe, the first
Mm.
one.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of blues, obviously, and then some greens, and then punctuated light from the candles or electronic lanterns. So Don't Breathe was a big one. Possession was also kind of in there. In our lookbook, we had in our Seed and Spark, we had some shots from that movie where Isabel Anjani is like throwing like laundry around, and it's kind of this huge mess. And she's also
Yeah.
wide in frame of this domestic world that she's living in.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, kind of drawing a lot from
Love
that.
that.
We also not almost in the same way, but Justin Long in Barbarian was in the character comps in the lookbook.
I
um,
totally see that.
yeah, my actor Caleb was like so into that. I know exactly this kind of guy you're talking about. I also had Bo Burnham from Promising Young Woman.
No,
I don't want to spoil that movie for anybody. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I
um,
haven't, but I've been told I need to watch it.
yeah, so Bo Burnham's in it. The character he plays kind of made me also think of this character, but I'll let you
Okay.
figure that out. I don't want to.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. I'll definitely watch that. So my last question is a little cute. Cute and fun and silly. So there's some spooky moments and images in this. There's like a creepy scene involving stairs to an attic, where I literally out loud said, "No." There's also the image of a spider, a real spider, which I was like, wait, is that a real spider? Is that CGI? No, it looks real. As I was reading the credits, I saw Spider played by Shelley, the
Yeah,
spider.
yeah, for
um,
Shelley Duvall, since we lost Shelley Duvall this past year, 2024.
oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, that was a real spider. That was like a big angle on when we were doing pre-production for this. I was just like, I need this to happen so badly. And my one of my producers, Cassie Lavo, found this man named Steve Kutcher, who is the bug guy of Hollywood. He worked with Lynch on The Lost Highway. Um,
Whoa.
he's worked on The Goonies. He's worked with Spielberg. Like
Oh my
bugs are kind
gosh.
of his thing, but CGI killed his entire livelihood. So once CGI
Oh,
became popular, he kind of started to do some other, bug related activities. And so he was really, really sweet when we called him and we're like, would you do this short film? We know that you've worked with giants, but like, would you please? That spider in the film, he went out and caught that spider in the woods. Like, he just went out and got him. Real Black Widow.
wow.
Nothing in the film is CGI'd or like VFX'd. So
That's
everything
awesome.
practical.
Yeah. She was so cool. I loved, like, I don't know, there's just something about the imagery and the fact that she's a Black Widow. And I was like, oh, there's definitely some kind of like thematical like tie-in here. And I really appreciate that. And like the end credits were just really like, I don't know, there's something about that visual of this big hefty black spider with her spindly little legs, and then she was like kind of set free after.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, so when I wrote it originally too, it wasn't necessarily a Black Widow. I almost kind of wanted to avoid it because I felt like that was too easy. But I was kind of easily, and I also didn't want to put the crew at risk if we didn't have a professional
Oh
playing
god,
a
yeah.
widow.
Yeah.
However, they show up really well on camera.
Yes. Yeah.
Credits, that shot, we wanted it to be in the film, but it just didn't work out with the cut. But I was like, I need the shot to sit somewhere, so we
Yeah.
had it, and that's where the name comes from too. The title, that's not the original title, but the original title was like super generic, and I was trying to rework it. And
Yeah.
Vermin came up because obviously a spider falls into that category. It's also phonetically very close to the word woman, and part of it's not just like, we know Black Widows, like, kill and eat the men, blah, 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 it's great,
Right.
but it's also just the attitude that some men have toward women that leave them, or women who nag, or women who essentially take on mother roles in their relationships, that we tend
Mhm.
to be viewed unfavorably, or with disgust.
Mhm.
So that was important to the theme. I know this is a spoiler, but it's fine. They switch. So we start off seeing this spider trapped underneath a jar, and then
Right.
slowly
Mhm.
we get to see that he's actually going to be the one that's sort of trapped in his own misery. He made a choice and trapped himself inside
Yeah.
himself in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
That's
don't
beautiful.
Yeah, I don't want it to be just as, like, easy as, like, "Oh, Black Widows kill men," like, yes, and
Right. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. The symbolism and the like mirroring or book ending of that. I love that. That kind of stuff is so cool.
Yay.
Yeah. I love the visual of like every scene. I thought you did such a great job of like lighting everything and shooting everything and writing such an in-depth character for such a short film. Like
That's
it's you did such a great job, and I'm so happy that you've done this and it'll be circuiting film festivals soon. When do you start doing that? What is the next step here?
We're still waiting for we've only gotten, one decision back, and I'm very thrilled that we made semifinals for Renegade Film Festival, and
Yay.
for me, this is the first film that I've made in my I've lived in LA for 3.5 years, and I didn't do film. I was a photographer, but I didn't do film before this, and so, like, I expected to the first thing that I made to have flaws, and it does. There are things like, I wish I did different. However,
Sure.
to have the first submission we get back to be a semifinalist in a festival that's been named like top 50 in the world is
Yeah.
really great for me. I'm really like happy and flattered, and but we haven't gotten any decisions back yet. The next one I'm waiting for is from FearCon. Um,
You're fine. Yeah.
and if we get in there, then that will be our premiere in the end of March.
Nice.
But so far, everything's sort of in that like limbo of review right now.
Yeah.
I wish Film Quest was sooner because I'd love that to be the premiere. I just want to give credit where credit's due. My DP Brooke really like. I mean, like I was on 5-hour phone calls with him, and I know he was up past midnight, like working on dialing in just the moonlight from the windows.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
we paid our crew, but I didn't pay him money like stay up past midnight money. But yeah, we worked really, really hard on that. Everyone in the camera team, all of my gaffers, everybody dialed that in. You know, they took what I asked for, but they did this work, and I'm very overwhelmed with gratitude for how it
Aw.
came out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope you're immensely proud of yourself because you should be. I'm definitely gonna push this video as soon as this premieres, so just like keep me updated.
I appreciate you liking it enough to agree to do an interview with me, and
Of course. Of course.
I gotta follow up on Deadlock because I submitted it to some anthology series, TV
Cool.
series,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that'll get made, but I'd like that to get made. um,
Of course.
but yeah, this is a really great first step.
Absolutely. Well, I'm keeping my fingers and toes crossed for you. I'm more than happy to talk to you anytime about a project you're doing or about anything.
I really, yeah, and if we can hang out, we should hang out.
I think we should.
I think we should hang out. But no,
Yeah.
and I'm really stoked for you too, and I really hope things kind of keep just trending upwards because that's kind of seems like what the trajectory is. It's really hard making content and putting your face out there and like doing that. It's hard.
Yeah.
So you're killing
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, love you, Kristen.
it. Me too.
Well, that's it from me and Kristen. Hope you enjoyed this week's Filmmaker Friday. Tune in every Friday for a new filmmaker interview episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, follow, and subscribe. You can follow Kristen Semedo at the social media handles below. Bye, babe.